will start with a small introduction of Eoh-for-Good. We are like a small think tank or consultancy. Our main motto is to do things for the common good of society and to have like a speaker of the good things, positive things, to make a small change, to convert it in a big change. So we have done some interviews to see the impact of how different people, personalities, they have like different actions to change or activities. So if you can start from zero and introduce who you are, what have you done, and
how you started.
Yeah.
I guess my story begins from when I was around 10 years old. I'm originally from Romania. My name is Victor. My family decided to emigrate to the United Kingdom when I was 10 years old. So my whole family decided to move there. I had finished primary school in Romania, and then I started secondary school. And it was initially quite difficult in me adapting towards like language. I had a pretty decent English proficiency, but my pronunciation and my speaking skills weren't as sharp as they are today, at least. So it took a little bit of time to adapt as well to a new culture, different society, and all of that. Very soon, I started to get involved a lot within like the school itself, the school curriculum, and I guess I started to want more. So I started to get involved with more things like an early GCSE, which is like one of the exams for the UK. I got involved with like the school council, and then from then on, I kind of went on an upward projection scale of wanting to get involved in more and more stuff, work with more people and more organizations to try and improve myself and actually do something which is good for kind of like what your think tank is looking for, to have a positive impact on more people than just yourself. So I went from like school council to the ECC by working up for like local youth council of my city, national member of the UK Youth Parliament. I worked with the nationwide organization in both Wales and England, and then I got to the ECC, and that's where I met you.
Yeah,
and other great people. Yeah.
That's a really long journey and a really good story. We really like it. So, what can you tell us about what was your first impressions, or how did you start?
Well, certainly when you're at a smaller age, obviously one factor was my parents and them wanting to be able to push me for myself to be able to become better. I also think that it was something personal for me too, because I wanted to like be known for like being good, or like being able to do that for myself as well, in a sort of self-satisfaction type of way.
Okay.
But predominantly, I think it was also the idea of knowing that I get to represent other people and I get to participate in something which is much bigger than just myself as an individual. The things that I was able to talk about, the things that I had to say on, the things I asked questions on to peers and politicians were much bigger than myself, sometimes related to issues which were not about me or necessarily affected me.
Okay.
And throughout that time, I think it progressed into being something like wanting to do something good, do something positive. I have this, sometimes one of my friends asked me about what my definition of life is. And the answer I gave him is, I was born into the world, and somehow, some way, the world was this way. And by the time that I leave, I want it to be a better place.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of like where I'm at right now.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's very inspiring, especially coming from someone that young, because we are not used to people that young thinking in this way. So we wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about young people joining this kind of politics environment and like wanting to change things? So how do you think people can get involved from the very beginning in this kind of actions, and just to, like, with the motto of changing things, that actually changing things?
I really like the question. And I'm going to answer the question by also giving some positive and some negative too. The idea of changing the world is fantastic, and it is inspiring, and it is something which is very possible, and it should be something I think that a lot of people should strive for. And I think at a certain point, this idea necessarily, because I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, why do you care about the world? You know, what? You're just one person in billions, right? Why you? Why do you think that you as an individual, like, what gives you the right to be able to say, oh, I want to change the world?" And there's no such thing to start as too young, and it's never too old to start either. Because it's all about perspective and the capacity of what it is that you can do. With the resources that you have, if you're happy with what you're doing, then you can go on and do it. But the negative side of all of this is that at certain points, you might end up feeling a little bit powerless in actually being able to change the world, because you're realizing that, well, I'm not changing shit, right? The world is still the way that it is, and I'm improving myself, you know, like I'm doing lots of things on a micro scale level, and sometimes I don't do those right either.
Yeah.
But I think the way to sort of like power yourself through this is realizing that if you are a young person, you've got time, and you've got time to first be able to improve yourself, and then try again, do something small. Because if you take a step forward, somebody else that's behind you will take another step forward. And if you take a step forward, somebody next to you will take a step forward. Changing the world doesn't happen in a day. It probably won't happen for our lifetime.
Yeah. We know that with young people, there is like a big resistance to change or to get involved in this kind of participation. So I would like to ask you, what do you think are the biggest challenge nowadays for the young people to get involved in this participation and to try to get the world better? And how can you think we can fix this challenge?
I think this is a wider political issue, which doesn't necessarily only extend to young people, but like everywhere and to various age groups. I think it's like the term is political disassociation. People are just not like engaged with politics, or they don't want to be engaged with anything related to, I guess, public good, society, working together, or anything related to do with government, because they've lost trust. They've lost the ability to think that it can be changed. They've lost reason to think that it is somewhere where they can belong to.
Yeah, I think there's a lack of a common language, especially in politics. So, like, I feel like maybe politicians and people working there don't actually learn how to be more attractive for, especially in this case, young people. I think maybe they should like have the whole spectrum and maybe have more young people in more decisive roles in politics. Like there is a resistance just for being politics. So like when young people hear about politics, it's like this boring adult thing. So I think the problem is that there is a lack of a common language that we have to fix in order to have all the intergeneration. This intergenerational change needs to share like a language that can be adaptable for everyone. So I think that's how young people can actually join and be more involved and at least have more interest.
I agree. I think like related to this, like this idea of jargon is like these practices to exclude young people from politics because they're not experienced enough, or they don't have enough drive, or they don't know what the real world is like.
At the end, we're the ones that will be working here, that will be living here. So it's like you should involve actually young people, because if you only talk to adults, they're not gonna be working in 10 years. But like the world that you live in is for us. So I think it's actually the best target that should be addressed.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what we have discussed more than once. But now, following the previous question, just on participation for young people that want to make the world better, the only way of participating is in politics. So,
well, recently my definition of any sort of participation is politics. But I think participation of any kind as a young person in an established organization, or like in a task which is bigger than yourself, is difficult, because the idea of experience, there's just this idea of dissonance also for other aspects of life. I feel like right now we're thinking very individualistic, right? And in terms of like young people right now, it's all about career. which is good. It's a good thing. But from what I've seen, it's becoming very sort of like mind narrow, looking after myself and what it is that I want to do. But it takes a toll on other types of profession and other types of people that are needed, which don't necessarily only take a individual approach, but take a wider approach where they think about the bigger picture. So I think there's barriers to entry, there's difficulties in being in this type of work right now. And there's also like changing trends about like what it is that young people want, because they haven't been offered an opportunity or a chance, and it's just something that's not like suitable right now. It's not desirable. Like, why would you want to be NGO worker, a very, very minimum salary, when you're working just as hard as anybody else, maybe even more for overtime, and you're not being rewarded for that type of work? And the only satisfaction that you get is like the work that you're putting in and the results that you're getting from other people. And that can sustain you for a little bit, but it becomes at a certain point where like your life priorities start to change. And that's not to make the issue about money, but that's maybe one example, I would say.
I'm totally agree, and I think that's a big, big problem with young people. They don't count on them. There is not opportunity for them. And to start, like, we finished the university and we had to decide ourselves.
And there's always like this pressure that you should do something. Young people don't actually have the time to think about what they really want to do. And also what you said before, I completely agree that everything is politics as well, because we also have this pressure of having a house, start earning money so we can leave our homes, also our hobbies. Everything is really close to politics, and we are not involved as we should, or people don't want us that involved.
Maybe we should move on participation, but future participation. Or what do you think it would be a good approach for next generations?
This one's obviously the most important and obvious answer is opportunities. Opportunities for participation for any young people, any young person to be able to get themselves involved in various different things that they want to get involved in. And once these opportunities arrive, sort of like encouragement, increase the desire to do it. Because right now, I think the way that it's seen as sort of like an extra, like volunteering, giving yourself time for some type of work, which is not only pertaining to yourself, like it's helping you improve yourself, but it's mainly to do with other people. So I think I'd really like to see a system where we sort of understand that this work is necessary for society, and it is not seen as like an extra value, but something which is a necessity within society, because lots of people are going to be doing this type of work anyway, but they are not going to be rewarded for it. People are not going to know about it. People won't care about it if they don't know about it, or if they're not rewarded for it.
What was the recognition of society on your work?
This one's very interesting. The recognition for myself as a person was always like very, very high, but it was like appreciation individual of the self, not necessarily related to any of the issues that I was talking about. And aside from the momentary praise and validation that I got on the moment, very rarely was there something like a follow-up. I think I can count on my fingers the amount of times where I was able to sort of like take something more to the next level. And I think one of those things was when I came to Bilbao at that time to talk about the Schuman Declaration.
Yeah, that's good. I had a similar experience. Most of the time, I got the feeling so that we were doing like really symbolic things that didn't have any direct impact. We were like just opening a path, but for next people that they would go in, it would be better and better.
I agree. I changed my opinion. We did some good work.
Okay, so now if you can talk a little bit about you, what are you doing now in participation?
Yeah, the actions that maybe you do.
That you are doing.
And then we can see if the reason why you started is actually being achieved right now.
I tried my hand a little bit at party politics in the UK. I did join like a Labour branch. I talked about economics a couple of times. I submitted a motion and everything. It didn't go through, and there was like it was a whole weird thing. They told me it went through and then it didn't, and then I waited for like a couple of weeks to come back. Nothing happened. So I said, politics right now, not the time. Later maybe. So then after that, I started joining organizations which were kind of like similar to the kind of work that me and Xavi we've been doing. So I joined something, DebateMate, which is basically like this charity which works with below average schools in terms of like attainment and also like areas where child poverty is more predominant. So I would go into like these schools and I'd teach debating for an hour a week, public speaking, how to construct an argument, how to destruct an argument, how to use certain like language. I've also been working with UWC and its branch of Critical Engagement, which is kind of like an outreach program for the college, because it is a private college which has kind of like a mission statement of helping getting education like in the world through not mainstream means. So it's all about kind of like collaboration, communication with others, living each other with a space, being aware of nature, being outside. It's a very different style of learning. And it's basically more like of activation of behavior as opposed to like sitting down and staying in a classroom. So for a couple of years now, I've been teaching courses on leadership. I think I did at one point, one of the things I was talking about earlier, I did hit a snag when I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not saving the world. I am like meaningless, useless. I'm like all of those things, right? Because I'm not actually doing anything to impact the world. I'm only talking about saving the world or wanting to save the world, but I'm not actually doing anything. I think I'm starting to sort of like realize that it's all about the little steps and it's all about engaging with as much people as possible and just being kind.
But I think that's why we should involve people from the very beginning, because really young people are more dreamers. They have these dreams that they want to change the world.
For sure.
I want to ask, we were talking about young people. And here in Eoh-for-Good, we try to boost these quadruple helix ecosystems, consistent joining the dots around the world, especially with these intergenerational peoples, and involving these actors from different disciplines. We have the academia, the business, society, and we have the public administration. So we try to build these ecosystems that join all these people and try to put them working together in international projects, in European finance projects. So you have been, I imagine, working with young people. How do you think these people can work together? Young people with old people, more business-driven people with public administrations, so we can build this collaborative sphere to, as you said, to change things.
I think the cornerstone of any sort of collaboration is like being able to relate. It's like about interpersonal connection. So I don't think it necessarily matters if somebody from public administration meets with somebody from business and that they shouldn't get along because they don't know the same things, right? Obviously now the key thing in this society that we live in this world, everything overlaps. Business has aspects of government, government has aspects of business. Like governments right now are privatizing some of the sort of like services. They're renting out, contracting out to businesses. Businesses are orientating themselves a bit more, sometimes, not all the time, to suit government objectives and services. And in terms of people, it's really easy. You sort of like, the way I would organize this whole thing was like, if I was talking about, you said somebody from profile, like, I don't know, science and business, kind of like the aim is there's this goal, whatever the goal is. And every single person that is involved with this particular project will use their skills and the things that they have to be able to achieve this goal. And then you combine what each person can provide together to achieve the goal. And it's mostly about management, mediation, and sort of like combination of ideas, which for somebody like a leader, it involves innovation, relatability, trust, all of that great stuff.
We believe that there should be, and there is always like a win-win. So I will give things to you and you will give things to me. And also this interdisciplinary involvement, we think that's the key to actually change things and also to set something for the future. People to be more thinking out of the box, and start working together and building these relationships.
That sounds really interesting. That sounds really good. I wish you luck with that.
Yeah, and also we put the accent in involving society, the actor that it's more abandoned, and at the end, everything is for us, the citizens.
The society is the final user in all aspects.
Yeah. You said that there must be a way for us to be able to get people to collaborate, because it's gonna be like a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys thought about maybe shaping it so that it doesn't necessarily have to be win-win, but it can just be, you give me something because I need it right now, and when you need it later, I'll give it to you, or you just give it to me because it's right to do so, or because it's a good thing.
Yeah, for the common good. Also showing people that there is a win-win that maybe they didn't think about it before.
You talked that before, like people now, they are like really focusing on themselves. And on this win-win situation, we said that maybe today you are not focusing on yourself, you can help the others, and in the future, when you will need help, they will help you back. So that's our motto and what we believe in.
And that was good.
It was a pleasure to see you back.
And we hope that everything that we are doing actually has something for the world.
Thank you very much for inviting me as well. I've had a really good time and I've enjoyed it.